We start with something healthy for you. Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Brickhouse Whey Protein. I've got to be honest with you. I've wasted money on protein powders that did nothing. No energy, no strength, and definitely no results in the gym. So if you've been there, you know the frustration. Well, the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition explain why most protein powders fail. Cheap fillers like maltodextrin, soy, corn syrup, even cellulose. Your body can't use that junk. That's why I switched to Brickhouse Whey Protein. It's bioengineered by doctors, not marketers. The clean formula gives it superior bioavailability, which means your body actually absorbs it. You feel the difference fast. Better recovery, lean muscle, real energy. So since I've been using Brickhouse Whey, I've noticed a real change. No bloat, no stomach issues, just results. It is even lactose-free. So don't let junk protein sabotage how you look and feel. Switch to Brickhouse Whey for guaranteed results or your money back. Go to thenewway.com and use the promo code LEMON for 20% off. That's the new WHEY.com, promo code LEMON. And welcome to the program. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. Okay, we start with the breaking news, and the breaking news is Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember, Todd Blanche met with her, the Assistant Attorney General, met with her a couple weeks ago and interviewed her along with her attorneys and others. Well, Todd Blanche is released the transcripts today. There you see Katie Phang. Well, you can bring Katie Phang in. Live updates from Justice Department. There we go. So Katie Phang is going to break down the legal part of this for us. But Katie, this is unbelievable. Justice Department releases transcripts of Ghislaine Maxwell interview. I was in bed because I'm feeling not so well. But the moment I saw this, I started listening to them, and they are actually fascinating. In a sense that it did not sound to me, you're an attorney, it didn't sound like a deposition or an interview to me. It sounded like, people just kind of hanging out, chatting.
That was the grossest part. It was like little hens hanging out, having cocktails together, and there was zero pushback by Todd Blanche, like zero real probing questions to kind of dive into the kind of wholesale blanket statements that Ghislaine Maxwell was asserting. Let's take a second let's wind the hands of time for just a second though, Don. What was released by the Department of Justice was not in compliance with the congressional subpoena that came from House Oversight.
Right.
So remember, there was that deadline. They've been punting it down the road. Some materials were turned over by the DOJ in compliance with that congressional subpoena. But what we have been reading in terms of the redacted transcripts, as well as the audio, that is just Todd Blanche, through the kindness of his heart, deciding that he wanted to release this on behalf of the DOJ. But what's particularly egregious about it, again, Don, is if you are supposed to be the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, and you are purportedly having the one and only time that Ghislaine Maxwell has sat down with a Department of Justice person to have a conversation about what happened with Jeffrey Epstein herself and other people, wouldn't you want to actually grill her? There was no questions. It was like, hey, Don, did you like the kale Caesar? Maybe we should go back next time for the filet. Right. None of that was there. It was just allowing her to basically whitewash history and for her to say, quote, I have a condition with slow cognition issues, so I don't really know if I mean, Don, come on. We wouldn't have believed it in the first instance.
Yeah. Well, and let's put up, I just want people to remember who Ghislaine Maxwell is and what she was charged with. Ghislaine Maxwell was in 2020, she was arrested and charged by the federal government in the United States in July of 2020 with the crimes of enticement of minors and trafficking of underage girls related to her association with Jeffrey Epstein as his recruiter. She was denied bail as a flight risk, with the judge expressing concerns regarding her completely opaque finances, her skill at living in hiding, and the fact that France does not extradite its citizens. She was convicted on 5 out of 6 counts, including one of sex trafficking of a minor in December of 2021. That's what she was convicted of that. She faces a second criminal trial for 2 charges of lying under oath about Epstein's abuse of underage girls. Now, to rely on her as given everything that you said, and to rely on her as some sort of credible witness to exonerate in some way Donald Trump or to clear him, it's just shocking to me. He released them releasing this. At first I said, you know what, Todd Blanche, as I was listening to this, Katie, I said, Todd Blanche is, man, he doesn't sound like a very good attorney. But now that I think about it, perhaps that's the way he was treating her with kid gloves. And he went into this knowing he wanted to get something out of it that he could release to the public that would somehow exonerate Donald Trump.
Todd Blanche went in friend, not foe. This was not an adversarial meeting that you normally would have buying between a federal law enforcement officer or a federal United States attorney and a criminal defendant. This was, again, a bunch of hens meeting over cocktails. And the thing that's outrageous is, Don, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell was also federally indicted for 2 counts of perjury. So under the law, the reason why she didn't go to trial on the perjury counts is we, as in prosecutors, we don't want a jury to convict a defendant because she's also facing the perjury charges. We separate them so that there's no prejudice. So interestingly, Ghislaine Maxwell actually got the benefit of no prejudice for having been indicted for perjury. Those were going to be tried separately. But after the jury came back with its guilty verdict and she was sentenced, those perjury counts were dropped by the United States Attorney's Office. Doesn't mean they couldn't prove it. Just means at that point with the sentence she got, it just didn't make any sense for her to continue to be prosecuted for the perjury. And the outrageous thing is those perjury counts did come from civil litigation that was brought because of the things that she did alongside Jeffrey Epstein and others. And so she is not a reliable narrator by any stretch of the imagination. For the DOJ to think that there was any type of evidentiary value to release these transcripts and these audios is an insult to the American people. You don't even have to be, you could be blindfolded, both hands tied behind you and muffled with your ears, and you still wouldn't believe anything that this woman is saying.
Amen. 100% true. This is Ghislaine Maxwell in the interview with Todd Blanche, explaining to him how she believes, she's not sure, she met Donald Trump, but it was before she ever knew Jeffrey Epstein. Here it is.
In 1990, I had come over to New York to help look at some of that. He was having some advertising issues with the New York Daily News, and in fact, I may have met Donald Trump at that time because my father was friendly with him and liked him very much. And I think it should be said that he also very much liked Ivana because she was also from Czechoslovakia, where my dad was from. So I don't remember if I did meet him or not in 1990 with my dad, but I knew that that's how I knew about then Mr. Trump.
And this was before you met?
This was before I met
Mr.
Mr.
Epstein?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, before she met Epstein, yeah, and I remember that, but I don't remember. Look, I can't remember what I was doing in the 1990s, but I think, I remember the first time I ever met JFK Jr. You know, the first time I ever met Oprah, the first time I ever met a celebrity who I thought, the first time I met Bill Clinton, I remember vividly those things. And one would imagine meeting Donald Trump would be something like that, but maybe not perhaps to her because she was a British, you know, she wasn't from here. I don't know, but to remember the circumstances, but not meeting the man, I just don't, that doesn't sound right to me.
And you are doing exactly what we ask jurors to do, for example, when we're trying cases, Don. We're asking jurors to use their common sense, right? We say use all of your senses to be able to determine whether or not you detect that your common sense is telling you that there's something wrong here. I just kind of quickly want to go back for a second. You noted that Todd Blanche did not do a compelling job here, and maybe that was the point. Recall, Don, that the DOJ fired Maureen Comey, the lead trial prosecutor on Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, a week before Todd Blanche trundled down over to Tallahassee to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. If there was anybody who could actually ask questions that would probe the veracity, the truth, the credibility of Ghislaine Maxwell, the person who would know the real facts behind meeting Donald Trump, meeting any of these people, it would be that prosecutor or somebody from that trial team. But of course, none of those people went. Why? Because this was just performative. This was not meant to actually elicit the truth. It was, let me check the box and make it seem like I'm trying to achieve transparency.
Maxwell talks about meeting Trump, and she also talks about Jeffrey Epstein himself, obviously. And then she talks about Donald Trump. We're going to hear what she said about Donald Trump in moments. But first, this is what she said, and I found this to be very interesting. This is what she said about Jeffrey Epstein, about his death, which she does not believe. Here it is.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
In prison, where I am, they will kill you, or they will pay, somebody can pay a prisoner to kill you for $25 worth of commissary is about the going rate for a hit with a lock today.
So that goes to the third reason, which is kind of the mismanagement,
yes,
or the shortfallings or shortcomings of the Bureau of Prisons.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different than my question is, which is, do you think there's somebody on the outside of prison, so putting aside what could happen on the inside, on the outside of prison, who wanted him dead so badly that he would have, or she would have, caused him to be killed on the inside?
I think I don't see that. I think, is it possible? Of course it's possible, but I don't know of any reason why, and I don't believe in the blackmail or in any of this. I don't think Epstein had a hit like that. If it is indeed murder, I believe it was an internal situation.
Muted, Don.
So, stand by, Katie. I want to bring in the great Glenn Kirshner's joining us. Glenn Kirshner is an American attorney, former U.S. Army prosecutor, and a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Office of the United States, attorney for the District of Columbia, and a former NBC News, MSNBC legal analyst. Welcome to the program. First to Katie, and then I'll get your response. Katie, should he just come out and say, do you think Donald Trump had a hit out? You know what I'm saying? That's what it sounded like to me. He was trying to ask. I don't know.
It just goes how it's so, and hi to Glenn Kirshner, one of my favorite people. Look, it just goes to show how absolutely inartful the questions were. It's like you could have picked anybody off the street and been like, hey, this is Ghislaine. Ghislaine, this is Joe. Joe, go ahead and ask her some questions. There was no purpose. When you are a lawyer, you don't even have to be a prosecutor, but when you're a lawyer and you have this golden opportunity to be able to obtain information that hasn't been obtained in decades, why would you not actually just pointedly say, did this person do this? Or the way that you phrase the questions are really important too, right? But when she says, he didn't die by suicide. Well, heck, according to the DOJ itself, he died by suicide. So wouldn't you actually probe her and say, well, actually, Ms. Maxwell, we conducted an investigation where we looked at the video surveillance, allegedly, and even though it's been doctored and put together, and the video surveillance doesn't show anybody going in there. So you're actually wrong about that, aren't you? No, we're just going to take what she says as gospel. Thank you that we worshiped at the Church of Ghislaine Maxwell and then walk away with it because it's self-serving to help Donald Trump.
Glenn?
So, Don, this whole thing is a charade. It is an exercise designed to exonerate and protect Donald Trump. I wouldn't expect for a minute that Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, and as Katie well knows, he now is the keeper of Donald Trump's criminal secrets that he came into during that representation, and he is duty-bound to continue to protect Donald Trump's criminal secrets because that attorney-client privilege survives the termination of the attorney-client relationship. There was only one person who should have been in that cell or that secure interview room interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell. That is Maureen Comey. She
Right.
was the lead prosecutor on the case. She is the one who would know instantly whether Ghislaine Maxwell was telling the truth or lying about anything, because she's the one familiar with all of the evidence. I have only heard just a little snippet of it. I actually just finished my daily video on the John Bolton search warrants of all things, which I think,
we'll get to that, Glenn.
yeah, and that was a distraction from the Trump Epstein Maxwell scandal. But this whole thing is a charade. Nothing Ghislaine Maxwell says or declines to say should be credited at all.
What do you think, Glenn, he was trying to get at that question? Because I was saying, just come out and ask her why are you beating around the bush?
Yeah, what was the question? You've got to read me in a little bit.
No, I want you to hear. I want to just play a little bit of the interview. I mean, a little bit of what we just played, because I want Glenn to hear it again. Let's hear it.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
Well, in prison, where I am, they will kill you, or they will pay, somebody can pay a prisoner to kill you for $25 worth of commissary. Is about the going rate for a hit with a lock today.
So that goes to the third reason, which is kind of the mismanagement.
This is it, Glenn. This is it, Glenn.
The shortfallings or shortcomings of the Bureau of Prisons.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different than my question is, which is, do you think there's somebody on the outside of prison, so putting aside what could happen on the inside, on the outside of prison, who wanted him dead so badly that he would have, or she would have, caused him to be killed on the inside?
I think I don't see that. I think, is
Okay.
it possible? Of course it's possible, but I don't know of any reason
Glenn,
why.
what is he trying to get at there?
This is a meandering mess of a custodial interrogation just based on the little clip I heard. I don't know what he's trying to get at, and I question the tactical wisdom of asking a witness who has already said, I don't know. He's like, well, can you speculate? Not really. What about somebody on the outside? I've already said I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into the questions, but what I would offer is that this is a horrible way to go about questioning a witness. And I don't know what his background, his training, his experience is, but, I will fall back on this whole thing is ultimately an exercise in staying away from the danger zone, anything that could perhaps come back to haunt Donald Trump.
Hey,
Is there
Don,
any? Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
sorry, if the viewers can see on the screen, if you look at line 10 right there, so that's how you read the transcript, right? So it's the page and it's the line. So you see line 10, 11. Do you have any speculation or view of who killed him? Answer, Ghislaine Maxwell. No, I don't. Let me tell you something, Dawn. Lawyer 101. When we teach trial skills, and Glenn knows this, doesn't make a difference if you're a civil lawyer or criminal lawyer. That would have been an objection in court. Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation. Speculation is it could have been Santa Claus that came in and killed Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody wants to hear that. And what he's trying to do is he was struggling, Dawn, to lead her down the primrose path for her to say, absolutely not. The guy, died because nobody else would ever want to kill him from externally. But she didn't get it because she's just too dumb to get that point. And so he just kept on trying, and it just kept on getting more and more mangled, to Glenn's point.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where he was going there. I'm like, is he trying to ask her? Is he trying to get her to exonerate the Donald Trump? Because you know what Jeffrey Epstein's brother has been saying, that he believes it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities that Donald Trump, this is according to him, not me, this is what he said publicly, that Donald Trump had something to do with it. And, you know, if he is sitting there, if Todd Blanche has seen the Epstein files, so I would imagine he knows what's in the Epstein files. So I'm just wondering if he's trying to get her to say something that exonerates Trump, or I don't know, for some reason, because I don't know what the reason is, but something tells me there's something in there that they know that they don't ever want to release, and they somehow want what she says to become the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me just say, and first of all, I'm so happy to be with my friend and former on-air MSNBC partner at, 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, real primetime viewing there. But Katie and I used to double team on the justice front, and it was such great fun. But listen, speculation, Don, is poison to a good professional law enforcement investigation and prosecution. Do you know the first thing I do when I sit down with somebody that I am going to debrief? I said, don't speculate about anything. And don't only tell me what you think I want to hear because you think it will make me happy or it will forward the investigative ball against somebody I'm prosecuting, because I need the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you don't give it to me, there's going to be hell to pay. Don't lie and don't speculate. This is a buffoonish little clip of questioning that we're hearing. And, Jeffrey Epstein's brother's speculation, frankly, is no better than Ghislaine Maxwell's speculation or anybody else's speculation. Law enforcement, both FBI and DOJ prosecutors, we deal in fact. We deal in what we can prove. We don't start asking witnesses to speculate about stuff.
Mm-hmm. We're going to hear more from Ghislaine Maxwell and others. But first, a word from our sponsor. Support comes from Beam. Let's be real. Summer doesn't mean life slows down. The news cycle keeps spinning, the noise gets louder, and the burnout, well, that is the goal. They're trying to get you to dial out, because if you're exhausted, you're even easier to control, right? But here is the thing. Rest is resistance. One of the most powerful things that you can do is wake up clear, energized, and ready to show up. That's why I use Beam's Dream Powder, a natural sleep blend that helped me finally get restorative sleep. It's loaded with science-backed ingredients, reishi, magnesium L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Dream helps you fall asleep, helps you stay asleep, and wake up without that groggy fog. Since I started using Dream, I feel sharper, more grounded, like I've got fuel in the tank again. And the taste? Incredible, smooth, delicious, and easy to make part of your routine. Over 17.5 million nights of better sleep. That's the Beam difference, okay? So right now, Beam is offering up to 40% off their best-selling powder, Dream Powder, to my listeners. So go to shopbeam.com/lemon and use the code LEMON at checkout. Sleep well, wake up ready, the fight continues. Support comes from 120 Life. This one is personal. Someone I care about has struggled with high blood pressure, and maybe you do too. Did you know that it's a #1 risk factor for death? 1 in 2 adults has it. That is a coin flip of your life right there. The good news is that you can take control naturally. 120 Life is a blend of delicious superfruit juices clinically shown to lower blood pressure. No pills, no side effects, just results that you can measure with a simple home monitor. Hundreds of doctors recommend it. And if you have diabetes or other health issues, it's still safe. I've seen people make the switch, and I watch their numbers drop. So try 120 Life risk-free. If you don't see lower numbers in 2 weeks, you get your money back. Go to 120life.com and use the code DON for 20% off. That's 120life.com. Promo code DON. Nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers. And thank you to our sponsors. And thank you guys for hanging with me. I sound like someone is holding my nose. I have a summer cold, and you guys know summer colds are the worst. The worst. I sound like rah, 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 rah. So anyway, I'm joined by Katie Phang and Glenn Kirshner, and I'm so happy to have them here. They're kind of double teaming me today. I love you. I love you. Nobody loves me, but I love both of them, so it doesn't matter so much. But I want to get back into this and talk about Jeffrey Epstein and hear from Ghislaine Maxwell, because the whole reason that they had her there obviously was to try to, as we have been saying, exonerate somehow Donald Trump. Okay. This is the one about, is there a black book? Is there a black book or a list of people who are, the Jeffrey Epstein list, as they say? Here it is.
During the time that you were with Mr. Epstein, and even in the 2000s when you were around less frequently, you never observed or you never saw any sort of list or black book or a list of individuals who linked to certain masseuses or
Absolutely
anything like that?
Absolutely no. There is no list.
There is no list. Glenn, why are you laughing?
Because I'm going to go back to Katie's point from a few minutes ago. I just heard Todd Blanche say, "You never saw a black book, did you?"
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a leading question. You are signaling the answer you're looking for, and she gave it to him. Mind you, she was indicted on 2 counts of perjury previously for protecting Jeffrey Epstein and herself. You think she's not going to protect Donald Trump and anybody else? Don, the reporting is there were more than 1,000 children, young girls, abused by Maxwell and Epstein, but there were no clients, there were no Johns, there was no one else involved in abusing these young girls that, Maxwell found and groomed and handed over to Epstein to be sexually assaulted and abused. And we all know, we have heard the reporting about Maxwell being a hands-on perpetrator herself. Come on now. And then Todd Blanche is feeding her the answers she wants. You never saw a black book, did you? You ask open-ended questions. You don't suggest the answer you're looking for.
Yeah. Katie, what do you think? There is no black book. There is no list, but there are names that she can give.
Of course there are. And that's why the Epstein files, look, when we're dealing with evidence in the legal sense, and even just in the common parlance of senses, when we're looking at evidence, we want to go to the source documents, right? So if somebody says, I've got 10 grand in the bank, what are you going to ask for, Don? Let me see your bank statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. If you go to the Epstein files proper themselves, that's going to be the source documents upon which allegedly Ghislaine Maxwell is relying upon, right? But here's the thing. Throughout the entirety of this meeting and interview, and I don't even call it an interview, it's really, like I said, they're just hanging out together. She never implicates herself in anything. Isn't that so convenient?
Yeah.
And the reason why we know this whole thing is a charade, and I love that word that Glenn uses, is the following. I'm going to go to the very beginning of this meeting that they had. And at the beginning, Todd Blanche makes it clear that she has been given immunity. But then he says to her, there is an exception, the most meaningful one of which is if you say something today that's not true, that's a lie, we can bring a prosecution against you for what's called false statements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a federal officer. I have several officers here. The FBI is here. It's a crime, so you have to be truthful. Mm-hmm. We know for a fact that this woman has lied in this meeting. Where are the charges against her? Where are the charges? She lied. So any type of immunity she was given should have been blown out the window, and she lied. She's not being prosecuted for it. You and I both know you sneeze wrong these days, this administration goes after you. You look at somebody cross-eyed and they'll kidnap you, right? Off the streets. Mm-hmm. So where is the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell for violating the terms of her immunity deal that she had with the DOJ? It's because this was performative. There was no substantive value for this whatsoever.
Yeah, except to distract the public.
And Don, can I add that Prosecution 101, I've sat down with more aspiring cooperating witnesses than I could ever count. That was my stock and trade. I actually loved working with cooperating witnesses as a career prosecutor because they were my de facto expert witnesses on crime. They were living that life, and I had to impress upon them to tell me the truth. And then I would try to use them against bigger criminal fish. Here's the first thing you do with anybody in Ghislaine Maxwell's situation when you're sitting down to debrief her or do sometimes what we call a reverse proffer. I say the first thing you have to do is admit to all of your own crimes to me right here, right now. Because if you can't accept responsibility for your own crimes, I can't believe you on what you say about anybody else, whether you incriminate them or exonerate them. First, you have to fess up, and that will be a indication that you are really willing to tell the truth. And Don, that shouldn't have been a heavy lift for Ghislaine Maxwell because she's already convicted of these crimes. She could have easily said, okay, I did the things that a jury found beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously that I did. But if you don't fess up to your own crimes, you are dead to me as a potential cooperating witness, because I will not believe anything you say about the crimes of others.
Okay, here's the thing that they wanted. Todd Blanche asking her about Donald Trump and anything that might be inappropriate behavior that she witnessed. Here it is.
I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
How does that in and of itself not discredit her testimony? Just that, first of all, she refers to him as the president, Don.
Right. Right.
Okay. That honorific, that title suggests a level of respect that she has for him. In fact, she spends a lot of time talking about how much she likes and admires him for what he's accomplished. She has such a bias that she would be laughed out of court if she was trying to be presented as a witness. But what do you mean you didn't see him do anything inappropriate in front of you? I don't know. Could he even be doing shit that was inappropriate behind a closed door that you weren't in? Of course he could, right? The reality is it could be any of them. She not only deals with Trump, she talks about Prince Andrew not doing anything wrong. She says Alan Dershowitz didn't do anything wrong. Look, I'm not saying they did. I'm not saying they didn't. How about we actually look at the Epstein files that is a part of the law enforcement's in Donald Trump's DOJ's care, custody, and control and possession. Why don't we look at that and make a decision on our own? Why is this woman the only filter right now that is being provided to the American people about what's contained or what is the history that surrounds the horrific acts of child sex predation, child sex trafficking, child sex abuse that she was convicted for and that Epstein was indicted for?
And Don, if I can ask, what is inappropriate behavior to somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell, who recruits, grooms, and sexually assaults children and gives those children to Jeffrey Epstein to sexually assault? You're going to ask her, did you ever see Trump do anything inappropriate? I mean, I would have to nail her down and say, you know, Ms. Maxwell, in your opinion, is it inappropriate to recruit, groom, and sexually assault young women? Because that's what you did. You're convicted of doing. You don't ask questions like, you know, what does a witness believe subjectively is appropriate, is not appropriate? I mean, again, this is just, this isn't even an interrogation. It's like a chat between a couple of, you know, acquaintances.
Here is the president now, Donald Trump, today speaking out about this Epstein stuff being released. Here it is.
Your Justice Department is also sending some of the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
I'm in support of keeping it open.
If they want
Innocent people shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. You know, people, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency.
Oh, God.
And the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton.
This is, I want you guys to pay close attention to this, because this reeks of hypocrisy and just disingenuity. He says, I don't want to hurt these people, but yet he brings them up and he mentions them, right? Keep going.
Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up. You have Larry, whatever his name is.
Did he not just bring it up? Did he not just bring it up?
I don't want to bring up the thing I just brought up.
I just brought up. Okay, keep going.
The head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers. He was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history. Yeah. What we've done, including stop.
No one has ever seen anything like rounding up people on the streets without due process, defying federal judges, laying off career people, brain draining our institutions of decades and decades of knowledge and historic information. No one has seen anything like this. Just people, the lies that come out of this administration. So yeah, he's right about that one thing. Sorry, I had to just say, go on.
7 wars. I mean, just include that.
He's
How
just
many? How
7
many
wars, he says now. I think it was 6, then it was 7, it was 8, and I think it was 10 one day. Anyways, go on. You guys have the floor.
I want to highlight something here, and I think Glenn, you would.
Katie's like, I don't even want to talk about what
I just cannot. You know what it is, Don? You know what's triggering me right now is that fucking hat. I want to take that fucking hat and shove it down his throat. Okay, so here's the thing. In the transcript, Ghislaine Maxwell admits that she has, quote, slow cognition issues. Okay. Now, when you are dealing with witnesses, and Glenn dealing with flip co-defendants and all this other stuff, right? People who turn state witness or turn government, right? If somebody admittedly has slow cognition issues, we're going to have to pump the brakes now and talk about the value of this person. Why? Because what is your ability to recall, Miss Maxwell? What's your ability to be able to remember? What's your ability to be able to process? I mean, she, by her own admission, has these slow cognition issues, 1, and then 2, but she conveniently knows that she's square. Jeffrey Epstein has erectile dysfunction, and she was happy not to have sex because she has a condition that made it okay for her not to have sex. It is the most ridiculous thing. So Epstein couldn't have perpetrated crimes because he had erectile dysfunction. And by the way, I didn't have to have sex, which means I, of course, would never be a child sex predator myself or a child sex abuser. And by the way, nobody did anything wrong ever. The most insulting thing about the Department of Justice is how it continues to perpetuate a lack of respect for the victims, not just the Epstein-Maxwell victims, but all victims of sexual assault, the survivors. Because how can you dare let this woman say that people have lied? People who have taken their lives, that they were liars? She said they all lied. She called them liars, Dawn. And that is disgusting, that the only thing that has come out of this Department of Justice has been a memo of lies from July 6th, where they said there's nothing here, so we're not giving you anything. And now we're giving you transcripts that have been redacted. And you thought you were doing them a favor by redacting their names, but then you let this woman have audio and written transcripts that say that these victims all lied? It just goes to show how much this administration is willing to debase itself in furtherance of its dear cult leader. And Trump standing there saying, I don't have a problem with it, then let it out, asshole. But he won't. And if he does, it's going to be in a form that is going to be all disjointed. And Comer's going to sit there, and he's already decided to whitewash it himself as well. It is such a travesty of justice. And the fact that it comes from the Department of Justice is the worst pill to swallow.
And there's a pattern here, Don, because I know we're going to talk about maybe the transcripts, the grand jury transcripts in both the Epstein and Maxwell cases. And we have 3 federal judges not only shooting down Pam Bondi's motion to unseal those transcripts, but saying some variation of, look, Pam, you all are engaged in a diversion. You are saying that there's something in these transcripts that would be new or enlightening when you know full well.
There's nothing.
The only transcript.
Release them, right? Don't they know full well that they aren't going to release them, Glenn?
Yeah, of course they do. They make these motions as a show. Do you really think? Because Pam Bondi would have read that transcript forward and backwards, 70 pages, one grand jury transcript in the Epstein investigation in New York. It was an FBI agent relating nothing but hearsay. Not a single witness, not a single victim appeared before the grand jury. And the judge said there's nothing in here that is not already known to the public as a result of the Maxwell trial. So stop making, and I think one of the phrases was, false, misleading arguments to the court, and stop, Judge Engelmayer said, trying to give the illusion of transparency when all you're doing is trying to divert the public attention away from from the Epstein files, which Judge Berman, the last judge, said, you, DOJ, have the authority and you promised to release these things publicly. I mean, this whole thing it's a cover-up start to finish. Massive, massive cover-up by Trump, by his flunkies at the Department of Justice, by his enablers in Congress, and it's gross, it's obscene, and as Katie said, it's all being done in disrespect of the victims of these crimes.
Yeah,
it's tough to fathom.
One more thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and then we're going to move on to John Bolton and the raid on his home today. But since you said what you just said, Glenn, I want to play. This is from George Conway, who was on CNN today.
I wonder, George, what you make of the way that Trump has handled this, specifically today in the Oval Office during this press availability. He was asked about the release of these files, and he said that there would probably be a lot of names in them that wouldn't deserve to be. He mentioned Bill Clinton by name. He mentioned Larry Summers by name as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real question: is, was the release of this, were the selection of these documents selective? And that's the question. I mean, are they withholding documents that might refer to him or things that are embarrassing to him, and producing documents that refer to other people in order to distract? And I wouldn't put it past them that they would do that.
Would you? No?
Listen, they're not going to release the good stuff. They're not going to release the incriminating stuff. And there are no checks on what Pam Bondi directs her dirty DOJ officials to disclose or withhold. You know, the criminals are in control right now. There are no checks on prosecutorial abuse and misconduct. So unless there's a FOIA request, and there is a FOIA lawsuit that has been filed, Judge Chutkan has caught the assignment. And, let's hope that can put some pressure from the co-equal branch of government that is still fighting to protect we the people from an abusive and criminal president of the United States, the judiciary. Maybe that will, manage to wrestle free some of the actual and complete files.
Okay. Katie, unless you have a word, I want to move on to John Bolton, if that's okay.
Well, it actually is going to set the table for your Bolton segment.
Go for it.
So earlier today,
will you stand by? Do me a favor. I got to get this in, and then we're just free to do. So let me get a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back. Support comes from Ollie. If your dog could talk, well, your dog would probably say, "Feed me, Ollie." The tail wag, the happy hops, and that look, right? That's the Ollie effect. I've got friends who have switched and swear that their dogs eat better than they do. Fresh human-grade food, no fillers, no preservatives, just real clean ingredients, and it shows. Shinier coats, better energy, healthier digestion. Ollie creates a custom meal plan for your pup based on weight, activity level, and health needs. And it's the only fresh dog food brand that includes unlimited routine health screenings. That's next level care. Right now, you can get 60% off of your first box when you go to ollie.com/lemon and use the code LEMON. Plus, it comes with a happiness guarantee. That's ollie.com/lemon. Give your dog the best because they deserve it. Support comes from Mint Mobile. You know what doesn't belong in your summer plans? A massive wireless bill. That's why so many people are switching to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, you can get 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. Same coverage, same speed, just way less money. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. Now, I have seen the difference. Mint Mobile delivers the same crystal clear services as the big guys without the huge price tag. So use your own phone. Keep your number and then start saving. So go to mintmobile.com/DonLemon and grab this offer right now. 3 months, unlimited, just at $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/DonLemon. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for letting me get that in. I think there's one more tweet that I want to put up, Katie, before you jump in, because I think this is a nerve of the Justice Department to release this information. Do we have that tweet, Andy? I forget who it was from. The nerve of the Justice Department to release this rather than releasing the actual Epstein files, which is what Glenn said, that, you know, the judges have been telling them this is a distraction. They should just release the files. I don't see it. You don't have it, Andy?
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay, no worries. Katie, what were you going to say? We can move on to Bolton if you want.
Yeah, so this kind of like leads us to Bolton. So you had asked Glenn prior to the ad from your sponsors about whether or not would you put it past Trump or others, you know, to kind of be controlling what is being sent out to House oversight from the DOJ, right? So with regards to the Bolton search warrants this morning, this is what Donald Trump said, quote, "I could know about them. I could be the one starting the raid. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer." And the reason why I say that is, how, if he is the chief law enforcement officer, does he not know really what is going on, right? He is the one who holds the key to the release of everything. That also means he holds the key to the way that they're filtering this information. And the horrific thing is, and this is about Bolton, right? I've said today that the presumption of regularity when it comes to our Department of Justice and our legal system has now been eviscerated courtesy of Donald Trump. Because now everything that we look at, there was a time, if you and I had this conversation, Dawn, with Glenn, we'd say, okay, this was released. Okay, this was the conversation. This was the interview. This is the search warrant. Now everything's cloaked with a presumption because of Trump that it could be planted evidence. It could be manipulated evidence. It could be filtered evidence. It could be selective turning over of stuff. That was never supposed to be the way that we were supposed to be looking at anything when it comes to justice.
But that's where we are now, sadly.
Sadly.
Where we don't know what to believe. I wonder what this all means for the justice system moving forward here in the United States. This is, Andy, what do you have in there? No one is above the law. Oh, this is Kash Patel tweeted this out about John Bolton, saying, "No one is above the law, FBI agents on mission." Now, Kash Patel has said before in interviews, Andy, let me know if you have it, that he doesn't think that, you know, there was any justification for them raiding Mar-a-Lago. And I believe that this is a revenge tour for Donald Trump. And so I think that they're trying to get back at him. Now, what he's saying in this clip, it could apply to what's happening now. But anyways, I want you to hear it, and I want to get your assessment. Here it is.
There was no crime. There was no predicate to go and invade Donald Trump's home. We have answered that definitively. Now, you know me, working backwards from that point, we are going to hold people accountable who weaponize that system of justice for the following reason. We, the FBI, must restore accountability and credibility to the American public so we can arrest more top 10 predators, so we can go after more terrorists, so we can find the other people involved in Abbey-gate. These are the cases that matter to the FBI, and the distractions, to put it mildly, from the prior leadership regime are what thwarted the American public's belief and credibility in the FBI. And so when they do raids like Mar-a-Lago, now the American public knows it was made up. It was completely false. It was completely unconstitutional pursuant to our judicial courts. And we are working into those matters to say, why did you do it? We know there was no reason. Now it's time for accountability, and that's who we're talking to. And by the way, Larry, I'd like to announce on your show, if you got nothing to hide and you were in DOJ and FBI before, you're welcome to come talk to the FBI at any time. And if you don't want to come talk to us, we're going to come find you, and we're going to put you in an investigative position and posture that will make you feel very uncomfortable, kind of like you did when you weaponized the government. The only difference is we're going to be doing it on a factual, legal, and constitutional basis to do so.
If that's not vengeance, I don't know what is. And let me just do this, because I don't like to get too far away from when people make statements to fact check them. A federal judge signed the Mar-a-Lago search warrant after a finding of probable cause. The FBI seized 700 pages of 184 unique documents with classification markings, including 25 documents marked top secret and 92 marked secret. The FBI and prosecutors later determined that Trump directed employees to destroy evidence and obstruct justice. Judge Eileen Cannon, a Trump appointee whose rulings largely favored Trump, concluded that the Mar-a-Lago search was legal. She rejected Trump's efforts to have the evidence thrown out. Go ahead, Katie.
Kash Patel wrote a book Nobody read it. But when questioned, he admitted that John Bolton was on his list of enemies. But then he swore he was never going to deploy any type of retaliatory conduct against anybody who was, quote, deep state, as identified in his book. Look, Kash Patel, he's so far removed from reality, he's living in an alternate universe. And the fact that he's the head of our biggest and our strongest law enforcement agency in our country is another travesty of justice. But fundamentally here, if you want to talk about Mar-a-Lago, let's also bring back everybody's recollection of the following. How many times did they give Donald Trump the chance to return those damn documents?
Right.
How many times did they bend over backwards to give this man a chance to right the wrongs? They gave him more chances under the Biden DOJ and the Biden administration than any of us ever would have gotten. But in the end, he didn't do it. So ultimately, you think John Bolton, assuming arguendo any of this, actually holds water. You think Bolton got a chance to right any wrongs before this happened? Bullshit. And so, look, they want to scream out about the weaponization of the federal government, including the DOJ and our law enforcement agencies under the Biden administration. But that's a lie. It never happened. Trump and his cronies have decided that this is his retribution tour. And the insanity of this is Bolton predicted that Trump was going to have a retribution presidency. He predicted it before Trump 2.0, and it is exactly what is happening right now.
John Bolton, and look, I don't know what a magistrate had to, you're the legal mind here, Glenn. A magistrate had to sign off on this.
Yeah, a federal magistrate judge or a federal judge who's not a magistrate. Magistrates do the lower level legal work in federal courts. And, you know, it's so absurd what Kash Patel is saying, because in the Mar-a-Lago case, a federal judge was presented with an affidavit drafted by an FBI agent and sworn to under the penalties of perjury, setting out the evidence that allowed the judge to conclude that a crime had been committed and there was likely evidence of that crime at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's de facto home. And that's why the judge authorized the search. And what did we find? Dozens of boxes of classified information hidden away in bathrooms and ballrooms. What happened today? I assume, though we can't state this for a fact, that an FBI agent drafted up an affidavit, swore to the accuracy of it, presented it to a federal magistrate judge, and the judge assessed that there was a crime committed and there was likely to be evidence of it found in John Bolton's home and office, and authorized the search warrant. We don't know any of that to be true yet, but I suspect that is what we will find out happened. So for Kash Patel to say that was lawless, what happened at Mar-a-Lago, it was all judicially approved and authorized. And as Katie said, even reinforced the legality of it by, you know, a Trump appointed judge, Aileen Cannon. So Kash Patel is so untethered to the truth that it really is frightening. But it's really important what Katie said about the book that Kash Patel authored. He has a deep state list in that book, and John Bolton is on the deep state list. The Washington Post characterizes the list accurately, in my opinion, as an enemies list. Not only is Kash Patel, is John Bolton an enemy of the director of the FBI, he is also an avowed enemy of the top law enforcement officer in the country, Donald Trump. And it's laughable that he said, even though I'm the top law enforcement officer, nobody talked to me about the upcoming search of John Bolton's properties. I learned about it on TV. Well, you're not much of a top law enforcement officer, are you, sport? But here is what Donald Trump posted a little over a week ago. Very unfair media is at work on my meeting with Putin, constantly quoting fired losers and really dumb people like John Bolton, who just said that even though the meeting is on American soil, Putin has already won. What's that all about? That's a quote. Well said, Mr. President. My gosh. Yeah. But here's the reason I mention both Kash Patel's enemies list and Donald Trump's scorched earth post. These things will give John Bolton such a robust, vindictive prosecution defense in the event he is eventually indicted and prosecuted. So, you know, we've just seen a scorched earth vindictive prosecution motion filed in the Abrego Garcia case. I don't mean to mix criminal apples and oranges here.
No. But there's a
But
new Abrego Garcia. There's some new information on that. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to. You can break the news, Don.
No, go for it.
Yeah. So Abrego Garcia has been released.
We're not that formal here, Glenn.
Yeah, has been.
Do your thing, brother.
He has been released, and he is now on his way back to his family in Maryland. And federal judges have put in place some safeguards to prevent Donald Trump's, masked up law enforcement agents from snatching him up again and unconstitutionally deporting him anywhere. So that's good news, because the Trump administration's misconduct has been exposed. And, I don't think the case will ever go to trial in Tennessee, because I would urge all of your viewers, if you can read only one court filing this year, read Abrego Garcia's motion to dismiss based on vindictive and selective prosecution, as compelling a motion as I've ever read as a career prosecutor. But here's the thing. If Bolton gets indicted, man, we're going to have one hell of a motion to dismiss based on vindictive prosecution. And I don't know that that DOJ can survive that motion to dismiss.
Yeah, but don't you think that, Glenn, that's kind of what they want? They just want to get it out there, that they're not. Yeah. They're not.
They want to poison the well of public opinion by saying, look at all this horrible stuff. Their thing is always announcing that people have done bad stuff, announcing investigations, not actually prosecuting people, because for that, the person actually had to commit a crime, has to be indicted, and the government has to have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to prove they committed the crime. We haven't seen a single prosecution of any of Donald Trump's avowed enemies. So, I don't know that we're going to see one of John Bolton either.
When you get into, from what I've heard, just listening to the, some of my legal contacts, they say once you get entangled though with the federal government, guys, it's kind of over. I think they have a 98% conviction rate or something.
Yeah, well, Don, can I please tell you, as a career federal prosecutor at DOJ for a quarter of a century, that's because federal prosecutors typically only bring damn near bulletproof cases, because if they don't like the case or it has some weakness, they can do a couple of things. One, they can kick it to the states, because when you commit a federal crime, you almost invariably also commit a state crime. So they kick weak cases to the states. I was not a good bureaucrat at DOJ. I got counseled multiple times because they don't like when people kind of expose what's really going on inside of DOJ. It's a great organization. It was my professional home. But listen, when you brag about a 98% conviction rate, that means you're not doing your job, because you're not taking the tough cases to trial. They either kick it to the states, or they try to wrap it up in a pre-indictment bow by giving a very generous plea offer, or they don't indict it. You can investigate something in the grand jury and say, I don't think the evidence is strong enough. I don't know that I have the prospect of a conviction at trial, so I'm just not going to indict. So unfortunately, that's something I railed against inside DOJ for a very long time.
The reason I bring that up is just look what they did to, poor Andrew McCabe. Andy McCabe was, they just put him through the ringer. If you guys remember that. I remember I worked with Andrew McCabe. He was a contributor to CNN, and I'd just watch him every time I'd see him come in. He'd get thinner and thinner and thinner, because he was dealing with the weight of having the Justice Department and the administration, on his back every single day. And finally, they dropped it, and he became a human being again. But it's awful to have this done, especially if it's anytime. But if it's for revenge and you haven't done anything wrong, that's problematic. Go ahead, Katie.
So I'll say this. It is horrible, but this is a different climate than Trump 1.0, right, Don?
Yeah.
Meaning, for example, I also work with democracy defenders. We do a lot of work where we go after the administration, but we also, working with our co-counsel, Abby Lowell, we're defending a lot of people against this administration. There are a lot of organizations and groups of lawyers now that have said, to hell with this. We're not going to stand by and let the destruction of our justice system go on without us fighting back. And so I think the climate has changed. You're right. The federal government, I've always said, is the largest, most powerful law firm in the world. The United States federal government, in terms of the DOJ, is the largest, most powerful law firm in the world. That being said, though, you cannot underestimate those of us that believe in the rule of law and understand that we also either grew up and also cut our teeth at the DOJ. We're also trial lawyers and we know how to deal with this. So I think the climate in Trump 2.0 is one where you have people that are brave enough to pull their resources together to fight back. I also want to note that Donald Trump's excuse always that he publicly gives is that somebody's lying, right? Oh, that person's a liar. That person's a lowlife. That person's a liar. With regards to John Bolton, he says that everything that was in John Bolton's book, which theoretically is part of this idea that the violation of the classified secrets and the classified information happened through this book, he says that everything in John Bolton's book is a lie. Well, if it's a lie and it's false, then how can it be classified information at the same time?
Hey, Don, can I pick up on Katie's great point about John Bolton's book? Because I think there is actually a parallel in recent history to what is going on with John Bolton right now. The last thing I want to do is give the Trump administration or Kash Patel's FBI any credit for doing things right. But remember General David Petraeus, who, when he left military service, became the director of the FBI, and thereafter he wrote a book. And what he did, and we know because he pleaded guilty to it, was he mishandled classified information. He shared it with his editor, who also happened to be his paramour, and he pleaded guilty to mishandling classified materials. And it was a misdemeanor, and he got 2 years of probation, but he was held accountable for his mishandling of classified materials. So might we be seeing a parallel here with John Bolton mishandling classified materials as part of whatever he put in his book, which I think is The Room Where It Happened. And maybe that's why they're going after him. So I don't want to suggest that there is no there when it comes to whatever the search warrant, uncovers by way of Bolton's conduct. But, I will be convinced if there's real serious crime, if during the execution of the search warrant today at John Bolton's home, they found dozens of boxes of classified documents hidden in his bathroom and his ballroom. I don't know if he lives in a mansion and he's got a ballroom like Donald Trump has in Mar-a-Lago, but then I will be convinced on this is a righteous investigation and prosecution, just like it was down at Mar-a-Lago.
Bolton's not keeping classified documents next to the crapper. He's not doing that, Glenn.
Unless there's some movie magic or like some Hollywood backlot stuff going on at his house, he doesn't live in a man. Maybe there's a giant ballroom back that we didn't see. It's a nice home, but it looks like a very modest suburban home.
Which he's lived out for a long time. Yeah. He wasn't home this morning. His wife was home when they came with the warrant. He wasn't even there. He's an early riser, Dawn. Yeah. He was at his office where they went with another warrant. And like I said, he doesn't keep. Listen, where are the classified documents? Are they in his mustache? Like, where are they keeping them? I mean, come on. Like, look.
Who's going to represent him, though? Who do you think's going to?
He had counsel before, because remember, there was a criminal investigation launched by the DOJ before about classified information. There was a federal grand jury that subpoenaed information about the classified information. He had to defend a lawsuit from the DOJ trying to stop the publication of his book. And then they tried to claw back his book advance that he got for his book deal, Don. So he's had a slew of lawyers that are uber familiar with the kind of the ins and outs of the facts of what's happened here. The allegations, according to senior officials, is that it's not just involving the book. They're accusing him of leaking information to members of the media, which then kind of also gets us to an entirely separate show that you and I could do, and with Glenn's help, of course, which is, they're now tapping the press, right? They are now actively surveilling the press. And so I am curious if this dovetails a little bit, Don, with something that's going on with maybe a conversation that Bolton purportedly had. But we know Bolton's been doing the media rounds. He did it before the book, during the book, since the book. He hasn't necessarily been shy,
He's been on this show at once or twice. I can't remember, but maybe I'm mixing it up because I interviewed him with CNN as well, but he has been on this show and he is very vocal. Yes. Not hold back when criticizing this administration. Just so you guys know, his attorney at the time, when the other things were going on in 2020 and such, Charles C. Cooper. Do you guys know Charles C. Cooper? No?
Can't recall.
Bolton's attorney, Charles C. Cooper, said at the time that by dropping the lawsuit, the government had tactically tacitly, acknowledged that President Trump and his White House officials acted illegitimately. So his attorney was Charles C. Cooper. Let's see if it's the same attorney this time. Do you think anything? I know you guys don't like to make predictions. Will anything come of this? We have to see the evidence first, but.
Oh, I think he gets indicted. I'm curious to hear what Glenn thinks, but Don, I think he gets indicted. And the only reason why is I don't think they would go through this dog and pony show without trying to kind of put some meat on the bone. So I think something comes of it, not just the execution of warrant, because I think they put so much mud on their face. It's like lying down, spitting up in the air if they do this and they don't actually have something come to fruition of it. It could be bullshit, but I do think that I do think they actually get an indictment on it. But Glenn, I'm curious to know what you think too.
Yeah. So look, they also executed search warrants on Rudy Giuliani's house. Remember that? And he never got federally indicted for anything. So it doesn't necessarily follow that just because there is probable cause and a judge issues a search warrant for your home and your office, it doesn't necessarily follow that you will be federally indicted. But I kind of agree with Katie because, look, there's precedent, right? General Petraeus mishandled classified materials. He got indicted and pleaded guilty. Donald Trump, in the biggest mishandling of classified material, certainly by a president, but perhaps, by any high government official, he got indicted and would have been successfully prosecuted because that was a gimme. That was an easy conviction based on the evidence if it hadn't been first for Aileen Cannon and second for the Supreme Court's, presidential immunity ruling. But remember, your viewers should remember, Don, he doesn't really have presidential immunity for the classified documents crimes because he committed those after he left office. So keep an eye on that in the future when Donald Trump leaves power. But I kind of tend to think that just as Petraeus had to bite the bullet for his mishandling of classified information, it may be that Bolton finds himself in a similar predicament, gets indicted, and tries to negotiate a plea.
Thank you both. So we have some exciting news. We'll just put this up so you guys can see it. Look, this is what happened to us overnight. Look at that. Boom.
Shut the front door. Yay! Lemon Nation. Woohoo!
Single little victory. We're on our way to 1 million. And once we get there, I'll say, okay, I'm not going to coast, but I'll be happy. As soon as we get that 1 million, then we'll be all right. All by ourselves. We did this all by ourselves, Lemon Nation, and all by ourselves with the help of people like Katie Phang and Glenn Kirshner, who are so kind to join us here on the channel. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Great seeing you, Don.
Have a good weekend, okay? Thank you.
All right.
Bye, Glenn.
So 800K, guys. And you got to make sure you subscribe. It's easy. I tell you every day. It's right at see the comment section right there. That's where it is. I was just texting just hit the subscribe. Subscriptions are free. Or if you go to donlemon.com, you can go to donlemon.com and just click on, see that says watch right under that watch thing. And that takes you right to our main page over on the YouTube. And you can subscribe there, or you can join. Okay. And our memberships are extremely reasonable. We're going to have to up our memberships. I think we can change them, right, Nikki? Can we go up a little bit? Because I think they're very, very reasonable. But that's just me. Anyway, so we'll leave it there for a while. I didn't want to have to charge subscriptions at all when I started doing this, but that's the only way that we can stay in business. Okay, we cannot, Nikki says. We can add a couple more tiers. We'll see. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for this. Every little victory counts. You remember when we hit 500,000 and I was so emotional, and then we hit 700,000, now 800,000, and we're on our way to 1 million. And so this is a milestone for us, and our next milestone is 1 million. And we're going to continue to do our live streams, release the Epstein files. I love that. We're going to continue to do our live streams, and we're also going to continue to bring you the shows that we do, me and DL and others. We're going to continue to do that. Okay. And so I appreciate you guys helping us to build this community. This is a community. It's not just a channel. It's not just me speaking. It's not just the news. Sometimes we do fun things. Sometimes I even do karaoke. I'll have a birthday party. I'm going to do more live streams in the coming weeks and months. And so you get a variety of different things here on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. Okay. So become a member, like and subscribe. And I have to remember the guy's name. Remember, we got a new theme song this week.
It's Matt Gregory.
There it is. This is our theme song.
Follow him on Instagram at It's Matt Gregory.
It's Matt Gregory. We have to come up with a theme Theme song by Matt Gregory. It's Matt Gregory on Instagram. So follow him. He's a good guy. He sent this, and I just happened to find it in the viewer email, which is, if you want to send your photos of you in the merch, it is thedonlemonshow@gmail.com. You can send comments. You can send, not too much, because Nikki's like, there's a lot of comments in there. Send us your photographs of you and with the merch, okay? thedonlemonshow@gmail.com. So who do we have today?
We have a fan photo.
Yes. Who is this?
This is.
Oh, wow. She's beautiful. The ladies.
Joanne.
Go ahead.
Joanne Beckles from Goodyear, Arizona.
Goodyear, Arizona. Hi, Joanne
It was her
Beckles.
birthday last week. So
Happy birthday. Happy belated, Joanne. Happy birthday from Goodyear, Arizona, Joanne Beckles. And the ladies love the lamination and the V-neck. So thank you for advising. I don't know if it was Nikki or whoever advised me to get the V-necks for it, and they look so great. And I love it. She's wearing it. Say it. She's saying it with her chest. Yes, lamination. We love it. Okay, guys. I'm going to go and get some sleep. I'm exhausted. You can see the sun is setting right here. I opened the blinds in my studio, and it's just coming in right now. All right, so I'll see you back here on Monday, if not before. We'll see if there's more breaking news to happen. Don't calm down. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. You can be informed without being inundated. I will only bother you this weekend if there is something really important that you need to know. Otherwise, I'll give you a mental health break from the news. Okay? So until I see you back here at 10 a.m., not sooner, for Hot Topics, turn the TV off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will